Bonga, a very good morning. Happy New Year to you. I mean, on your end, ultimately, this is where cleanup operations are usually underway. But for now, as we begin off 2021, how are things looking there on your end?
Happy New Year to you too, Lizzie, and good morning. Well, I paint a picture that is bleak, particularly at this beach, North Beach. It's one of the most popular, considering the fact that by now, in a normal time, it would be packed with visitors from across the country coming in to usher in the new year, people coming to swim at the beach. But because of the regulations that we're in, because of the situation we find ourselves in, the promenade is the most populated place right now here. I'm just going to ask my colleague, Give, just to pan to you to show you that the lifeguard station that usually has lifeguards right now is empty, because why have lifeguards if there's no people swimming in the ocean? And also the ocean too, it's empty. There's virtually no one swimming right now. There are no people surfing. Nothing is happening because, again, regulations forbid people from coming here to swim because of COVID-19, because of the second surge that we're seeing that is even more rapidly climbing, with the numbers that the president announced yesterday, over 18,000 cases recorded in the past 24 hours. So the case here right now, it seems that the beaches will not be operating for the next long weekend because they are one of the super spreaders. Gatherings are also not allowed. So that's the case we find ourselves in right now, Liesl. There are no cleanup operations because why clean a beach when there's no one swimming in it?
Absolutely, Bonga. And I mean, on that note, I can see a few people, through brave souls, walking in the background behind you. I mean, have you managed to speak to some of them? And what are their experiences as we enter this new year on a different note?
Well, it's all about hopefulness, Lizzie. Most of them are optimistic that something will change this year. They're hoping that, the wearing of the mask, as masks continue for now, but they want the lockdown regulations to be eased a little bit. People want to go out. People want to celebrate. People want to have some bit of normalcy back into their lives. But they understand, most of them at least, why this has to be done. But the confining inside spaces when they're supposed to be celebrating New Year is still a frustration. As you can see, they're up here on the promenade doing what they're allowed to do. You're allowed to walk the promenade. You're allowed to cycle. You're allowed to jog. But you cannot go into the beach. So there's some sort of hopefulness, and sometimes there's fatigue with people who are tired of being cooped inside. Most of them are also not very willing to come to the camera to speak to us about their frustrations because, I don't know, there's a bit of intimidation with us seeing come in their faces, but they are very, very hopeful that things will get better from now on. 2021 will usher in some sort of normalcy, what you call that, how that normal is, because you are in the new normal right now. As you know, social gatherings are not allowed. Social distancing is the new norm. Wearing of masks, sanitizing. So basically right now, Lizzie, it's just people frustrated, but they are complying, it seems, because none of them have violated the regulations, at least for now, by attempting to go into the beach, which are closed. It's a popular activity when celebrating a new year.
Bonga, whilst we have you, I mean, we're just looking at those regulations under the adjusted lockdown levels 3. I mean, for those who've just tuned in, can you just reiterate what that looks like under these adjusted measures?
Well, adjusted level 3 lockdown regulations are quite clear, Lisa, about gatherings, that you cannot have outside gatherings. Beaches are closed, taverns, bars, restaurants are also not allowed to sell alcohol. No off-site consumption is also allowed. You can't transport alcohol. You can't buy it anywhere right now because super spreaders. Funerals are supposed to be kept at 50 people at least out of capacity. And also there are no after-tier situation. You can't have gatherings at all when it comes to that. Social activities are virtually prohibited unless it's people at your house, which are not even supposed to be more than 10. If that's the maximum, if that's not supposed to happen. On the roads, there's a lockdown, a curfew that should be followed from 9 p.m. until 6 a.m. in the morning. We should not be loitering around because that is something that is prohibited to try and curb the spread. And also, regulations state that masks must be worn outside at all times. It's now an offense that is punishable by a fine or you can get arrested if you are not wearing your mask. Sanitizing, and social distancing is something that has been punted by the president also, by the mayors, by the premiers, everyone virtually trying involved that you have to social distance, you have to follow these regulations because the second strain and the new variant of COVID-19, as described by officials here in KwaZulu-Natal, seems to be more vicious. So those are some of the most important rules and regulations that people have to follow, and that for now they've been told that if you break regulations, you either face a heavy fine or jail. And Bekele, the Minister of Police, has been very emphatic about that. They are not going to be easy on people who don't play by the rules.
Bonga, speaking of breaking the rules, I mean, I know that you are in at the beachfront as we speak, but the president did announce that there were about 22 hotspots in the country that were being monitored in KwaZulu-Natal, districts such as eThekwini, Harigwala, amongst others. I mean, to date, just, looking back at New Year's Eve and then ushering into the new year, I mean, have any incidences been highlighted by the police? What did the province, experience this time round?
Well, at the moment, Liesl, it seems things are quiet. There's been no official statistics released, but we do know that roadblocks were quite important here last night. They were done to ensure that people were at their homes by 9 p.m. Some arrests have been made because when you search people's cars, alcohol is found. Bekele was here in the afternoon yesterday to ensure that people were complying, but there are also a few incidences where they found people with alcohol in their boot, which is counterfeit alcohol, and those are some of the small incidents that are recorded. But for now, people breaking regulations is not something we're aware that has been happening, but the stats have not been released yet. But at the same time, it seems like that the province has been appealing, and that appeal has been adhered to because, as you mentioned, KZN has one of the highest active cases right now. I think we're at over 50,000 when it comes to cases mentioned by the president, and also the numbers that keep on growing are the active cases that we're seeing here. As eThekwini municipality, Ugu, and also Mgungundlovu are one of the hotspots here in this province, which they were saying that super spreaders are things like churches, parties, taverns, alcohol, which people are literally saying don't go to situations like these. And then also it has the burden in hospitals. I was seeing a picture earlier on where people were saying that in this province, the first time they've been seen major incidences happening, alcohol-related traumas admitted on the 1st of January because of the restrictions put on, that hospitals are not overburdened. They've not seen a lot of cases coming in, people being in accidents, stabbings, or where they were driving in with alcohol high levels in their system. So it seems the regulations are being adhered to, but we'll get the statistics as they go because government has to collate them first and then tell us what's happening. So that's something that might happen in the next week or during this long weekend, because sometimes they try to let us know how things are going as the stats come in.
Well, Bonga, you are also in KZN, and of course you also had to usher in the new year. I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you, what did you get up to as you ushered in this 2021?
Well, yesterday was quite a very interesting day for us because we decided to go to a house or a family and start staying with them from 4 o'clock in the afternoon until 12 midnight. So we went to Claremont at a house in Dinzamas, where we basically sat with them from when they were just having snacks in the afternoon, and then mid-evening they basically had a braai, had a huge dinner where they invited us in. We were like part of the family. I'm from the Eastern Cape and I couldn't go see my family right now, but I felt that I was welcomed there. So in between that, we're doing lives with them, talking about the anxieties of 2020, the expectations of 2021, and it felt very comfortable, Lisa. People who said they've accepted their reality that they have to be at home, saying that they're not going to go to a party anyway or a concert, but they don't like the idea of being told at 9 p.m. they can't go to the next door neighbor to speak to them about Happy New Year when it comes to 12 o'clock. But we had that kind of family New Year's welcoming of 2021 with them. And then at midnight, close to midnight, we lit candles as per the request of the president, and we paid tribute to the frontline workers and also the people who lost their lives in the battle of COVID-19. And that's how we ushered in the new year It was different for me because we did a big bash somewhere, ushering the countdown, 10, 9, 8, 7. But that was not something we did. We basically were very quiet, very reserved, but also a very important one because we are adjusted to the new reality we're in right now. And that family was saying that this is how they usually do it. But at this time, they realize that they have more to be thankful for, but they want to ask for more in 2021 because they don't want to live their lives confined in their own house again because they like going out and experiencing the world when they can without a curfew hanging over their heads.
Well, Bonga, you were certainly on country duty. I'm going to leave it there and wish you and all our viewers, of course, a very merry, happy new year. Obviously expecting nothing less from the spirit of KZN